Yo, peace to the 12, man. Y'all see the title, The Black Chaldeans. I'm going to say it one more time, The Black Chaldeans, even though I'm pretty sure when this video really come out, the video going to have a different title. But nonetheless, man, yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Black Chaldeans, or specifically the ancient Chaldeans. And spoiler alert, they were black. To be even more specific, they were Ethiopians. And I've done videos on this in the past. I'm just going to add more to it. I got about like 5-6 books, and I'm going to go through like 5 or 6 Bible verses, and that'll be the video. It's going to be a lot of reading. So let's go ahead and get into it. I got like 80 slides, right? And I had somebody tell me, man, they said, hey, man, you got some people hating on your last video. I said, man, let me tell you something, man. Every time I drop a video, I expect 5, maybe 10 positive comments, and the rest of them is going to be a bunch of scoffers, haters, all that. I don't give a damn about them. Like I tell you guys all the time, my videos are only for the 12 tribes of Israel. I don't give a shit about the opinions of other people, man. All right, before I get even more into this, just to let you people know out there, man, you better not let these other people try to tell you about your history, man. You'll get lied to every time. Anyway, man, let's get into this. First book we're going to be going into is written by Spear and Herbert Green. It's called The Childhood of Art, or The Ascent of Man, a sketch of the vicissitudes of his upward struggle, based chiefly on the relics of his artistic work in prehistoric times, by H.G. Spearin. So this is the first book we're going to be going into, where he's talking about these Chaldeans. Some people pronounce it Chaldeans, but I'm going to say Chaldeans. Anyway, so it says The Child of Art, or The Ascent of Man, H.G. Spearin. We're going to go to page 255, right? But I already got it highlighted on the next slide. So here we go. It says, we have seen that Egyptian art reached its highest level after being crossed with a foreign strain, the origins of which is still obscure. Many of its characteristics are so similar to those of the early art of Chaldea that archaeologists were for a time rather inclined to consider it as an offshoot of the Chaldean, or at all events as having been very strongly influenced by it. So a lot of the artwork and stuff from the Chaldeans, aka the Babylonians, was very similar to the Egyptians, right? And that doesn't surprise me at all, because like I told you before, Nimrod, he had a co-regency in Egypt and in the Middle East. I'll do a video on Nimrod, but that's a big story, man. Nimrod is the #1 pagan influence in the entire globe, man. Almost all these damn false religions, they piggyback off of Nimrod, his story. All right, I've alluded to that before in the past, but it's the truth. Anyway, at present, the tendency seems to be towards believing that their similarities were due to ideas derived from a common ancestral race, possibly Semitic Arabian, of which we have yet no satisfactory traces. So he's saying that, if the ancestral race is Semitic Arabian, there's no traces. That's because when we go into the ancient times, the ancient Chaldeans, they were not so-called Arabians. Like I told you, the ancient Chaldeans, they were Ethiopians. The Bible tells you so, which I will get in this anyway. All right, as you know, this is a Bible channel. So people, I remember I had this one dude on this one dude in my comments a while back. He said, "Oh well, you give me a reference that wasn't in the Bible, nigga. My channel is called Rob Repent. I don't gotta do what you say to me. You talking about actually you should go watch somebody else. Actually, you should go make your own damn video, man. Don't tell me what to do on my channel. Kick rocks. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? I won't smoke today. It says recent researchers have shown that these ideas did not form the basis of Chaldean art. They only caused modification in well-developed style, which was chiefly attributed to the genius of an ancient local race. These people in later times, called Sumerians, had reached a fairly high stage of civilization. Long before their independence was threatened by outsiders, the discovery was very disconcerting to literary historians and philologists, for that race was proved to be not a branch of the civilizing Aryans. So basically, when they were going into this Chaldean art, all right, the Sumerian stuff and all that, people were displeased. They were disconcerted. The historians were mad when they found out it wasn't a branch of civilized Aryans, which is just code word. They was mad when they found out it wasn't so-called white people. Which is no surprise, right? Anyway, Chaldean, for those you don't know, it refers to an ancient Semitic people, became dominant in Babylonia and a modern religious ethnic group of the Catholics for the same region, primarily Iraq, right? Or Iraq. So anyway, let's continue on. That was page 255. Now we're going to go to 256. So he said the discovery was very disconcerting to literary historians and philologists, for that race proved to be not a branch of the civilizing Aryans, nor of the gifted Semitics, but of a Negroid people. You hear that? He said what? Of a Negroid people. Now what's this talking about? The basis of Chaldean art. Negroid people. All right, look up what that word means. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do it for the team. It's pretty obvious that Negroid means Negro, but hey, you know, just to let you know, man. Just to let you know. Let me go ahead and Google that. Google acting right now, so you know we gotta take advantage. Google acting right now, so we gotta take advantage. You know, anybody watch me for a long time, you know my shit be freezing a lot. But today, hey, we locked in. So it says, or tonight really, because it's actually 2:56 in the morning. Anyway, it says Negroid, related to a division of humankind represented by the indigenous peoples of Central and Southern Africa. Translation: Negroes. That's what it means. So let me read that again. This discovery was disconcerting to literary historians, for that race was proved to be not a branch of the civilizing Aryans, nor of the gifted Semitics, but of a Negroid people, having affinities with the Mongols. They use an argumentative, I've never heard that in my life, language, a form midway between our monosyllabic languages like Chinese and the affected systems used by Indo-Europeans and the Semitic group. These results were not obtained by men. Now this is I like how this dude worded this too. Basically, he was saying, "Hey, this wasn't written by no amateurs." Watch what he's finna say. He says these results were not obtained by men sitting comfortably in libraries and building up theories which are observing facts. In other words, this was not written by people that were on the keyboard. Actually, I was on Reddit, and on Reddit and Quora page it says it wasn't that. It wasn't that. These results were not obtained by men sitting comfortably in libraries and building up theories without observing facts, using bricks made without straw. Those little straws are of well-recorded observations that seem so insignificant and are so difficult to gather. This is what he's about to say. Lives were risked and lives were lost in collecting the material for the scientific study of these long-forgotten races. Hey, man, so people put their blood, sweat, and tears, man. They put their life on the line to secure this information, man. This wasn't no regular Redditor, man. This wasn't some damn neck beard, no life, in his damn mom's basement, just typing shit, chatting shit. This was people, they was in them trenches, man, getting that archaeology on, man, and finding out the truth, right? That's why I tell you guys too, man, like I just said in the beginning of this video, y'all better stop trying to let these other people try to tell you about your history. They gonna lie to you every time. They gonna lie to you every time, man. It's like playing a dude with loaded dice. He already know what it's gonna roll. Because he made the shit up. Anyway. Let's go here. Page 257. I had to put these smiley faces, man, because Shorty had them things out, and I'm not trying to get banned. You heard me? Anyway, the earliest Chaldean art 257. It says, the earliest relics of the strange Negro Mongolian race do not come from Chaldea proper, but were dug up at Susa, the capital of the mountainous district called Elam, aka Western Persia. This country forms the eastern border of the great Babylonian plain, of which the southern part was occupied by the Chaldeans. These relics lay beneath some 70 feet of clay and sand that had been gradually piled over them by the disintegration of successive structures built of unburnt bricks. All over Babylonia and Persia, you can recognize the sites of hundreds of cities unknown and unexplored, raised far above the usual level by constant importations of fresh building material, just as London has risen above the marshes that once surrounded Tower Hill. Right? So he said that these were Negroid-like people. He said Negro-Mongolian race. So he could be talking about they were so-called black people with so-called East Asian features. All right, which they do exist. They're all over Africa. All right. This is a woman from the Himba tribe in Namibia. Right? As you can see, she has the epicanthal folds, all right, which is just a fancy word for, so-called Asian eyes, right, so to speak, East Asian eyes. There's also the Khoisan people, which some of these scientists say is the first people. As you can see, they also have the epicanthal folds, right, as you can see. These people are found in southern Africa, There's also the famous Negrito people that are found all throughout Asia. All right, it's an ethnic group of Southeast Asia and the Andaman Islands. Right, like for example, the Ada people. For those of you who don't know, the Ada people are the first people of the Philippines, and once again, they have those Asian features with so-called black skin. Right, so he could be saying that's what these Chaldeans look like, but according to the Bible, they were Ethiopians. All right, so matter of fact, let's get into it. I got that in the next slide. The Bible says that the founder of the Chaldees was an Ethiopian king named Nimrod. As you all know, Ethiopians are, black Africans. So let's get into that. Let's go to Genesis chapter 10, verse 6, which reads, "And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan." All right, so the four Hamitic sons, one we're focusing on is Cush. All right. Cush, a.k.a. black, a.k.a. Ethiopia, a.k.a. Ethiopians. All right. Also, there was a Benjamite named Cush. There's actually two Israelites named Cush because I believe Zephaniah or Zechariah, I can't remember which one, his father's name was Cush as well. Anyway, so Cush is talking about an Ethiopian. All right. So the son of this Ethiopian, the founder of the Ethiopians, Cush, was Nimrod. Let's get that in Genesis 10 and 8. And Cush begat Nimrod. That means he came out of his loins, for lack of a better term. That's his son. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. Right? He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord Yahawah, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Right? That's where? Babylon, Iraq, Sumeria, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Ashur, and builded Nineveh, and the city, Rehoboth, and Calah, and Rezin, between Nineveh and Calah, the same as a great city. All these cities he just named come from Nimrod, who comes from Cush, who comes from Ham. Okay? And just to once again get other versions of that, it says, what did Nimrod do? He built his kingdom in the land of Babylon. Babylonia, with the cities of Babylon, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh. That's other versions of Genesis 10 and 10. Kingdom, Babylon. All right. So the Babylonians, aka the Chaldeans, Ethiopians. All right. Cush, black, Ethiopia. Check this out. It's on Eastern Bible Dictionary. Nimrod was a great Cushite chief. He conquered the Akkadians, a Tyrian race already settled in Mesopotamia, and founded his kingdom. The Cushites mingling with the Akkads, and so forming the Chaldean nation. Wait, who formed the Chaldean nation? That boy Nimrod did, man. Nimrod did. Now remember, Cush is the father of the Ethiopians. He was also the specific father of Nimrod, which means Nimrod was an Ethiopian, which means Nimrod today would be considered a so-called black man. To be more specific, a so-called black Ethiopian man. And yet, when I type in Nimrod on Google, this is what I get. This man look like the damn Liver King. You know that guy who shot up all them steroids and scammed all them people, allegedly, and he was eating raw meat like a damn savage. But nonetheless, Nimrod, that's what they say Nimrod looks like. Or if you Marvel fans, right, you Marvel heads out there, Nimrod, he was this tough-ass mutant killer for the X-Men. I think he was basically like a souped-up, what's them shits called, man? Sentinel. He was like a souped up Sentinel. Nimrod was, man. Hey, man. Hey, if y'all into Marvel and stuff, hey, go watch that, man. I was really into that when I was younger. Check that out. Anyway, X-Men was my favorite, by the way. That's neither here nor there. This is what they say Nimrod looks like. It's all some bullshit. They say Nimrod looks like this. They just lying, man. This goes back to what I told you. This goes right back to what I told you, man. If you let these people tell you your history, then they're gonna lie every time. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. That's why, like I said, when all these people try to get in my comments, try to say, hey, listen, I don't give a damn about what you gotta say, man. Your ass had the chance to tell us the truth, and you didn't. All right, you're just a descendant of people who lied to my ancestors. And the lying stopped now. You can't lie to me. All right, I'm reading up on all this. You can't lie to me. You can only lie to somebody that don't know. You can only lie to the ignorant. All right. Anyway, continue on. Now let's get some more books that speak on the black African Ethiopians that ruled in the Middle East. First book we're going to get is the OG. I use this dude all the time. Godfrey Higgins, born in 1772. He was a historian and antiquarian. He wrote concerning ancient myths. All right. And as you all know, he used this book I quote all the time, Anacalypsis, Volume 1 and 2. The book we're going to go to today is Anacalypsis, Volume 2. So let's get it. All right, page 364, Anacalypsis, Volume 2, Godfrey Higgins. Go all the way down this highlighted portion. He says, I admit, with great difficulty, the theory of all early astronomical knowledge of the Chaldees have been acquired or invented by his race, and that the Chaldees were originally Negroes. Yeah, the Chaldees were originally Negroes, man. That's what he said, right? All that inventions were invented by that race. Astronomical knowledge. The Chaldeans were Negroes. Of course, we just backed it up with the Bible. We just backed that up with the Bible. Who did that? Who did that? That boy Cush. All right, he had that son Nimrod. Nimrod did all that. Babylon. Right? Look at this. It said Nimrod formed the Chaldean nation when he conquered the Akkadians. You understand that? That's what they don't tell you. The Chaldees were originally Negroes. That's what he said. This in the 1700s. So they've been doing it. Anyway. Here's a picture of the Chaldeans. Look at this hairstyle. You got Africans in Africa who still have this hairstyle today. Literally, look at this. Look. Look at this Oromo tribe Ethiopian woman. They got it today. It ain't no different. It ain't no different. Look at that, man. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's get another book. Let's go to Alexander Hislop. All right, Alexander Hislop. He wrote a book called, he was born in 1807. He was the guy who criticized the Catholic Church, and he criticized the Trinity, right? And said it was pagan, because it is. But anyway, Alexander Hislop, he wrote a book called The Two Babylons. We're going to go to page 35. Just a little highlighted portion real quick right here. The Two Babylons, Alexander Hislop. Now, Nimrod, as the son of Cush, was black. In other words, was a Negro. So, yeah, he said, let it be known. Yeah, and he's right. Duh. He's Ethiopian. He's black. Francois Lenormant, we're going to go to him. He was an archaeologist, a French archaeologist born in 1837. Paris, France. He was an archaeologist, a Syriologist, and a French Hellenist. He wrote this book, and this is going to be the longer portion of my video because these words are long. Or what I have highlighted is a lot. So he wrote this book called The Manual of Oriental History, a manual of ancient history of the East by Francois Lenormant. We're going to go to page 58. Right here, it says, according to the book of Genesis, Ham had 4 sons, Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. The identity of the race of Cush with the Ethiopians is certain, correct. All right, I already broke that down a while ago earlier on. Let's go down to here. This is what he says. It says, excuse me. It seems certain that the Hamitic race inhabited at first a great part of Western and Southern Asia. What? The Hamites were in Western and Southern Asia. You get that? What's in West Asia? What's in West Asia? I'll tell you what's in West Asia. Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Iran, right? Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, and Syria, right? Let me read that again. It seems certain that the Hamitic race inhabited at first a great part of Western and Southern Asia. All right, Southern Asia, where's that? India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. Anyway, Southern Asia. Before the arrival of the children of Shem, who drove them out from thence. Right? Nimrod, a descendant of Cush, reigned in Babylon, built Erech in Calneh, in the land of Shinar, and established there the first of all empires. That's correct. The first empire that was established the first empire that was established after the flood, meaning post-Diluvian, was the empire of Nimrod. He was the first emperor of the earth. All right, right. Well, after the flood, because you had empires before that when the world was evil. Lord killed everybody with a flood, except 8 souls. Then Nimrod. He was the first one to get it back to jumping. Like I told you guys earlier, man, Nimrod is a very influential pagan influence. And a lot of people don't even know it goes back to Nimrod, but it does. All right. The Hamites were the first inhabitants of the country bordered by the Oxus extended towards the upper course of the Indus, whence to derive name Hindu Kush. Always gives the mountain chain the region. All scholars are now agreed that the banks of Tigris, southern Persia, and part of India itself, where the tribes of this race were peopled by a Kushite family, right? So by the Tigris, southern Persia, what's Persia? Iran. All right, part of India, it was inhabited by Kushites. All right, I got to do a video on that. They actually found some ancient remains in Iran to back up this dude's claim. They found some so-called black people in Iran, all right, which back in the day was Persia, as we all know. I might do a video on that. But anyway, where are we at? Before being occupied by the descendants of Shem and by the Aryans of the race of Japhet, there are also good reasons to believing that the Carians, the original inhabitants of the great part of Asia Minor, were of the race of Ham. And lastly, the same race exercised in early times as uncontested sovereignty on the coast of Carmania in Georgia, along the Indian Ocean, over all the south of the Arabian Peninsula. So Hamites was everywhere in that region, South Asia, Western Asia, and even parts of Asia Minor like Turkey. Which I can back all that up, right? Southern Asia, like I said, is Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. Yeah, that's South Asia. He also said the Carians were suspected to be Hamites. All right, Caria is southwest of modern Turkey. I can actually show you guys some paintings that show the ancient blacks in the regions of Turkey. We're going to do that right now. So there's something you can look up called Katal Hayuk. Katal Hayuk is one of the earliest paintings like ever. Proto-city from 7500 BC. We're going to look at what's on these walls, man. This is the Katal Hayuk paintings, right? As you can see, these people are all brown skinned, and then they have some black people, like super black or like dark brown to dark black, right? And they're hunting, clearly. Here's another picture. Mind you, this is in Turkey. Dark-skinned blacks and dark-skinned browns hunting whatever the hell this is. Right? More pictures. Blacks, they got the BBs in their hair, all that, man. Check it out. This is in Turkey, man. See, a lot of people be thinking I'm bullshitting when I tell you the original people that were in Turkey ain't not the original people in Turkey. The original people that are in Europe, they looked a lot different. But then when they get into Cheddar Man and all that, then they say, oh yeah, they were dark skinned, then they evolved. Oh, man, that's all bullshit. All right, I tell you guys this all the time. I'm not going to go too much into it right now, but Europe was invaded by the people of the steppes. Europe was invaded by people from West to Central Asia, all right? They went over the Caucasus Mountains and they invaded Europe. All right, I went over this before. They've done DNA studies on this, man. I'm not bullshitting you. Anyway, here's another picture. Black skin, dark brown skin, all that, man. 6000 BC. It also said the Arabian Peninsula. Let me go back to that part where it said, and over all the south of the Arabian Peninsula. What's the Arabian Peninsula consist of? Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Yemen, Iraq, Jordan. All right. Let's go to another book real quick. We're going to go back to the other book. We're going to go to this book by James Cowles Picard, guy born in 1786. He was an anthropologist, physical anthropologist, ethnologist, all that, right? Studying ancient civilizations is what that means. He was born in the 1700s. He wrote a book called, what was it called? Researches into the Physical History of Mankind. That's what it's called. We're going to go to page 371 and 372. Check this out. He says, the name Cush in the Hebrew scriptures is rendered by the Septuagint Ethiopians. The people generally so termed in Egypt were the Ethiopians of Meroe. Let's see that. Talking about in Egypt. Yeah, exactly. Anyway. The subject of Queen Candace. Couldn't have been Candace Owens. You know. It couldn't have been her ass. But the same name, as we learn from its use by Diodorus, was extended to some of the neighboring nations, but always restricted to black people. Right? To black people. Cush, in the older historical parts of the Old Testament, is, however, applied evidently to nations living in the eastward of the Red Sea, hence the ambiguity to its meaning in some passages. Go down to here. It says, in the earlier ages, the term Cush belonged apparently to the same nation or race, though it would appear that the Cush or Ethiopians of those times occupied both sides of the Red Sea. The Cush mentioned by Moses are pointed out by him to be a nation of kindred origins with the Egyptians, meaning they looked alike. Of course they did. Once again, another lie they try to tell you is they always just look like they just always look like DJ Khaled. Hell no. Anyway, it is very probable that the first people who settled in Arabia were Cushite nations. Where? Arabia. Cushite nations. What do you say Cushites were? Black people. Mind you, this guy was in the 1700s. It is very probable that the first people who settled in Arabia were Cushite nations who were afterwards expelled or succeeded by the Beni Yoktan or true Arabs. That the Cush had in remote times possessions in Asia is evident from the history of Nimrod, a Cushite chieftain who is said to have possessed several cities of the Assyrians, among which was Babylon. Long after their departure, the name Cush remained behind them on the coast of the Red Sea. So he's talking about Cush, Nimrod. He said Cush means what? Black people. It means Nimrod was black. All right, going back to this. So if Nimrod was black, who the hell is this guy? Who is this? All right, it's the damn Liver King, man. Anyway, let's continue on, man. Let's continue on down the road. Let's go back to Francois Lenormand. Let's go back to his books, man. Let's go to page 59 of his book, The Manual of Oriental History, a Manual of Ancient History of the East. We go to page 59. He says, Susanna between Persia, properly so called, and the Tigris, always had these elements in its population, which seems to have been an essentially mixed race. Ashur II of Shem was the founder of the powerful nation. The name of the Assyrians played a great part in the history of Western Asia. Ashur says in the Bible, builded Nineveh, and Kala and Reason. Well, we learned that it was we just read about it in Nimrod. But nonetheless, at Babylon throughout Chaldea, the language, as we know by the monuments, was the same at Nineveh. The influence was that of the race of Ashur. It's kind of hard for me to read this, man. It's written real small. But the mass of the population seems to have remained Hamitic or the Cushite branch. So that's who? The majority. The majority. Which had formed the primitive empire of Nimrod itself and containing a mixture of other elements. In other words, it was a multicultural nation. So all that shit where you hear about in America and Rome and all, it was very multicultural. That ain't nothing new. Alright, Nimrod had it the same way. Alright, had it multicultural. Egypt was also multicultural, by the way. But, 72, page 72. The Hamitic nations spoke the so-called Semitic languages. Hebrew was originally only the language of the Canaanites, a people excessively Hamitic, both in its disposition and physiognomy. Well, that's because back in the day, everybody spoke one language, believe it or not. All right. Anyway, the monuments of Babylon and Chaldea enable us to state that the language called Assyrian was originally that of the Cushites of the lower Euphrates, and that the Assyrians carried it with them when they formed their settlement in the north. The Himyaritic itself is the idiom of the country where the Cushite race preceded the descendants of Joktan, and all times formed a considerable element in the populations. And if the Joktanites of southern Arabia had at the time of their civilization language different from tribes of the same stock who were established in the remainder of the peninsula, may not have been owing to the influence of a race who preceded and mixed with them. All right, so the Ethiopians was getting busy with the Joktanites. All right, you know, they was mixing all around there. 211, page 211. The Negroes are there represented as immediately adjoining the Egyptian frontier, and we find no trace of the Cushites, Ethiopians, who subsequent evidence shows us to have occupied just that part of the Nile Valley after having driven the Negroes southward. when the 6th dynasty ruled Egypt, the Hamitic race of Cush had not established itself in Africa. So in other words, what he's implying is that the Cushites races, they didn't even start in Africa. They started in the Middle East and then they worked their way down to Africa. That's what he's saying. Let me read that again. When the 6th dynasty ruled Egypt, the Hamitic race of Cush had not established itself in Africa, to which country it came no doubt by the Straits of Babel, but still remained in Asia, where it had founded a powerful empire at Babylon. All right, so they started there. So in other words, he's saying the Ethiopians started from the Middle East. They didn't start in where we have now modern Ethiopia, Sudan, and all that. That's what he was saying. And like I told you before, Babylon is where? Babylon is in modern day so-called Iraq. All right, you know, that country that America toppled for its oil. All right, and killed 100,000 civilians. 100,000 plus. All right, Esau, you know, using the sword like he likes to do. Anyway, page 342. Two great nations of Shamar and of Akkad. As soon as the monarchist government was introduced there, the first title of the sovereigns was King of Shamar and Shumir and Akkad, a title preserved official documents by the Syrian and Babylonian kings to the last days of the empire, though it had no real meaning. So it was like basically kings had their own little titles and stuff. You know, like trying to think of an example, like Kaiser or Caesar or trying to think of what the Incans called their king. Like, was it Sapta? I can't remember. Somebody put that in the comments. Anyway, where was that? Where was that, man? Am I tweaking? Cushite branch, Babylon. All right, here we go. Real mean. There was the kings. All right. Of these two great nations who constituted the massive population of Chaldea, one was of the race of Ham and of the Cushite branch, Chaldeans. The presence of Cushites in Chaldea and Babylon is attested by the Bible. See, the Bible says the Cushites, the Ethiopians, created Chaldea. All right? Where we at? I'll be getting lost. By Berusus and by universal testimony of antiquity, right? To them, as we already said, properly belonged that language, the family called Semitic, to which scholars have given the name Assyrian. So in other words, he's saying Ethiopians were speaking that Semitic language. Like I told you before, everyone spoke one language. All right, and guess what that one language is, by the way? Spoiler alert, it's ancient Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew. All right, that's like when the scriptures say you're going to turn to the language of Canaan. What's the language of Canaan? Hebrew. All right, like I told you, back in them days, everybody spoke the same language. Believe it or not. To them, we already got that. The language was common to both Babylon and Nineveh, and it is found in the use of the Chaldea as far back as the monuments enable us to go. Right, so all the monuments, they had that same language. We have proved that the greater part of the Hamitic people, particularly those of the Cushite branch and the Canaanites, spoke languages analogs to each other. Analogous to each other. Yeah, they did. Page 355. Now we have already attempted to show that this idiom of the family, and properly called Semitic, was the national language of the Cushites of the monarchy of Nimrod. Notice he said the language is improperly Semitic. Yeah, because it's a Canaanite language, and Canaanites are Hamites. And Nimrod was speaking that language. Under the primitive kings whom we have named, the birthplace of the political life of the empire, its focus and center appears to have been in the south of Chaldea, now the Persian Gulf, in the very heart of the exclusively Cushite or Akkad country. Right? Yeah, I would agree. And let me get that scripture say it was one language. Genesis 11:1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. They were all speaking that Canaanite language. They were all speaking that Paleo Hebrew, that Proto Hebrew. All right, before the scattering. All right. Page 344. Go down to here. Among the what the hell does that say? Among the Shamir and Akkad, it is easy to distinguish between the Tyrians and the Cushites. Their respective geographical position alone is enough to determine this. The Akkad were the most southern, that bordered on the sea, and the continued the chain of the Cushite peoples who extended from the Straits of Babel, Malabar, occupying the whole shore of the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. So the Cushites was all throughout there, man. They were the first to attempt navigation on these waters in the dawn of the historical period. So the first people that had ships and they were setting sail were who? It was the Cushites. All right, see, the Cushites were a very energetic nation right after the flood. All right, that's what scholars will tell you. The Cushites, they were putting in a lot of work. All right, they were putting in a lot of work. Like I told you, Nimrod is a very influential pagan, just in general. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much undeniable. I think that goes into this in one of these pages too. The Shamir, on the contrary, were from the northern position connected with the Tyrrhenians and occupied a continuation of their territory. But though these two nations were the most important in Chaldea and Babylon and formed the greatest part of the population, they were not the only ones. Other races mixed with them. Yeah, they were multicultural, like I told you. Right? And look, the kings of Akkad, we know Nimrod started the kings of Akkad. Alright? Like Sargon of Akkad. Anyway, 345, page 345, it says, this mixture of the genus and peculiar institutions of these differing people united on one territory gave rise to the great Babylonian and Chaldean civilization, which played so considerable a part in Western Asia and extended its influence over the whole of that country. The two elements, Cushite and Tyrrhenian, had the preponderance, but it's very difficult to decide in this mixed race already completely formed when we first became acquainted with it. What belongs to the Shumir and that in Akkad, there are reasons, however, to believe that religion, check this out, he's talking about religion, now check this out. There are reasons, however, to believe that religion, astronomy, and industrial culture were brought by the Cushites. Now, didn't I just tell you they were putting in work? They brought what? They brought astronomy, religion, industrial culture. The Cushites did. Ethiopians did. So-called black Africans did. All right? This is indicated by the Babylonian tradition, placing the origin of its religious faith on the banks of the Persian Gulf, where the fish god on its issue to teach men the precepts of religion. Yeah, this fish god was just a representation of Nimrod. I keep telling you, man. And the reason it's a fish god, all right, like Vishnu and all them, reason that they're so-called fish gods is because they survived the flood. All right, they were able to live in the water like a fish. All right, that's why you see the bottom end of a lot of these false gods is what, a fish, and then their top half is a human. All right, because it's really a man who it was. The God that is speaking about is a man. All right, and all these real religions, a lot of these religions, the so-called gods they speak of, they're really just men. They were great men of renown. All right, who people damn near worship or just flat out worshipped. All right, but you know that's a whole another can of worms to open up on that one. But nonetheless, he said religion. What is religion? A social cultural system that includes belief, practices, morals, and world views. What is astronomy? Scientific study of celestial objects and phenomena beyond Earth's atmosphere, including stars, planets, galaxies, other cosmic bodies. What is industry? A group of manufacturers, businesses that produce a particular kind of good or services. All of these were implemented by who? Cushites. Who are Cushites? Ethiopians. Who are Ethiopians? Black Africans. Yeah. What page is this? 346. What is certain is that the Chaldeans imposed themselves equally on two great constitutional elements of the population of the country, no doubt by conquest. Yeah, in other words, they was stepping on shit. All right, they was putting belt to ass. They was conquering people. As you come to find out, people were getting conquered all the damn time. It's nothing new. What's certain that Chaldeans imposed themselves equally great constitutional elements of the population of the country, no doubt by conquest, and that they remained there as superior and learned caste. I mean, they had a caste system. Having both sacerdotal and military supremacy. They belong neither to the race of Shem, like the Assyrians, nor to the race of Ham, like the Akkad or Cushites of the lower Euphrates, but they were already established in the midst of Akkad in the time of Abraham. He reminds the reader again that Akkad equals Cushites, like the Akkad or Cushites. Right? So Akkad is linked with the Cushites. Just wanted to throw that in there too. Page 348. Damn, it's a lot of reading, bro. How much time I got? 40 minutes. Damn, it's about to be 4 o'clock. Whatever. You know what? I'm a power through this shit, man. All right, page 348. In this state, the first regularly organized government in the world, the preponderance and dominion among the various tribes belonged to the Hamites of the Cushitic race. Let me say that again. The first regularly organized government. What? The first organized government was who? The Cushites. Yeah, Nimrod. I keep telling y'all. In the world, the preponderance and dominion among the various tribes belong to the Cushite race, the Hamites. And Cush, says the book of Genesis, begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Chaldea, and the land of Shinar. Out of that land had went forth the shore, and built a Nineveh in the streets of the city of Calneh, between Nineveh, the same as a great city. Right? We already read that all before. Right, so the invaluable passage of the inspired book furnishes us with facts. Yeah, exactly. Of the highest importance. In the primitive history of Mesopotamia, we see there first the Semites of the race of Ashur remained there a long time, mixed with the Cushites of Chaldea, and did not leave until after the commencement of historical times, when they migrated to the south, undoubtedly to escape the Cushites' dominion, formed a new state distinct from the first, and founded the Assyrian cities. This link to sojourn together explains why the Assyrians and Babylonians had the same language and civilization, in spite of the difference in their origin. Right? Yeah, so book of Genesis. What does it say? This ain't anything I want to get. City of the Moon, City of God. I don't think this is anything I really want to get. This is probably from something else, but y'all can pause and zoom in on if y'all want. Y'all see it. Y'all know how to use your phones or computer, whatever you're using. The first ever organized government was founded by so-called black people. That's what he said. Let me read it again. First regularly organized government in the world, Cushite race. Yeah. Multiculturalism is nothing new. People were coexisting in a society, melting pot, all that. Yeah, there's no new thing under the sun, like it tells in Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that has been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. There is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, this is new? It has already been of old time, which was before us. It ain't none of this stuff new, man. Even rapping, man. You hear all these rappers. Rapping ain't nothing new, man. The Vikings had something called flight. Right, you can even look into a I think it was 1940s. What was that group called? Were they called the Jubilees? I don't remember what they were called, but it was a black singing group, and they had a song about Noah, and it was in the 40s, and they was rapping in that too. They just wasn't calling it rapping. So the point is, there's nothing new under the sun. Even waves, man. You look at the Egyptian pharaohs. You have pharaohs who had waves. When you put the cream on your hair and you let it wave up. Niggas been doing that shit. Anyway. Continuing on. Page 349. Same book. Oriental History, Man of Ancient History of the East. It says, the foundation of the Cushite state of the lower Euphrates was almost coincident with that of the other branch of the sons of Ham in Egypt, and with the appearance on the first signs of civilization of the banks of Nile. Yeah, you know why it was coinciding when the Egyptians came to power? Like I told you, Nimrod had a co-regency. All right, in Egypt, he was known as Pharaoh Narmer. All right, Narmer Murad. All right, Narmer Murad. Doesn't that sound like it? Sounds like Nimrod. All right, same person. That'll be its own video at another time. The fragments of Beroes mention the first dynasty, said to have consisted of 86 kings. they were carrying the name. In that last syllable of his name, it seems that we have recognized that of Cush. Possibly this name preserved by Barros may be a traditional surname, right? So they had Cush at their last name, right? Like the Inca kings had Sapa Inca, right? Yeah, I said Sapa. I had it right. Sapa Inca, sole ruler, all right? Son of the sun, and were revered as gods. Like I told you, a lot of men were revered as gods back in the ancient world. All right, straight up like that. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. I was gonna add something to that. Oh yeah, like that's where you get a lot of names. Where you talk about how Cush was the name they had, the last syllable at the end of a name, Cush. That's how you get like Odin's son. Like in Marvel, you got Thor, Odin's son, meaning what? Odin's son. Same way in real life, you got the word Johnson. Johnson means son of John. You have who else? What's another son name? Jackson, son of Jack. Robinson, son of Robin. Robertson, son of Robert. All right, that's just put game on for you guys. Yeah, that's where those names come from. Page 350. The Hamites of Babylon, on the other hand, spread themselves over the fertile plains of Chaldea as far as the Persian Gulf. They sure did. I already went over that. Their supremacy was marked by progress in industrial arts and in science. So they brought progress in industrial arts and science, united with those superstitions and mythological ideas and traditions to be met with wherever the Kushites have established themselves. Right? So their religious practices, mythological ideas, industrial arts, and sciences, they got that all from the Kushites. All right, who were inhabiting the Persian Gulf. What's the Persian Gulf, you might say? I told you before, Bahrain, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. And for those of you that know, if you study Islam, before the Muslims, before the Arabs, the Ishmaelites, created Islam, they worshipped a bunch of different gods. And those bunch of different gods, where did that come from? They were worshiping the gods that were given to them by those Kushites in ancient times. All right. Anyway, wherever the Kushites established themselves, their contribution to the history of the development of humanity by agriculture, mining on both common and precious metals, and commerce to the land sea. And let me say this too, man. There's a reason why your modern scientists, like your modern white scientists, your modern, people that study anthropology and stuff, there's a reason why they want people to say that the original humans come from Ethiopia. The reason they say that is because that is because Nimrod, like I told you before, he was very influential, right? And that's why people are like, oh, this is where civilization started. That's why they come with that theory, man. Anyway, talking about the Kushites. Their contribution to the history of the development of humanity by agriculture, mining of both common and precious metals, and commerce by land and sea. The population increased rapidly on the fertile soil. Cities were multiplied. Arts and sciences began to be developed. Astronomy took its rise under that clear sky, while at the same time on the ruins of the ancient primitive faith, revealed to the ancestors of the human race, arose a system of worship of the sun and other heavenly bodies, the foundation of the religion of those lands. Like, didn't I just say that? They when they worshiped the sun and all that, when they were worshiping all them different gods, they got that from the Kushites. The Assyrians had carried with them some part of this civilization in their immigration church. So the Assyrians, when they broke off, they carried them the Kushite beliefs. They continued to live under the direct and almost exclusive influence of the Babylonians, who had preceded them in the march of civilization and were their instructors in everything that belonged to it. All right, and the Greeks had a similar thought about the Ethiopians as well. There was a Greek, I can't remember his name, brother, put in the comments if he knows. There was a Greek who said that religion started from the Ethiopians. That's what he says, right? That's because, like I told you, all these pagan religions, they come from Ethiopia, man. They do. Anyway, science, systematic way of studying the natural world, they brought that. Brought mythology, right? Traditional stories, supernatural characters, events, all that. Page 353. It says, the most ancient monarch of Chaldea mentioned in the inscription possesses Ur-Hamu, probably in relation to Ham, I'd imagine, whose name signifies light of the sun, right? He was known to classical antiquity and considered so completely legendary that overlaid the mythological story of Cledic haven't occurred in his family. Notice he said he became mythological. Like I keep telling you, a lot of these men and women of mythology, they were real people, right? They just got deified as gods by other people that came after them. I keep telling you that, man. Ur-Nammu, Sumerian 3rd Dynasty King, Mesopotamia. Damn, I know I gotta be almost done with this. Yeah, I got about like 8-ish slides. Page 354. He was the builder of the Great Pyramid of Ur in Chaldea, whereas we have seen, as well as Beersheba. He's talking about that guy. We just talking about this dude, Ur-Nammu. These facts, yeah. These facts enable us with little doubt that Ur-Nammu, at the very commencement of the empire in the Kushite or Akkad dynasty of Nimrod, and rather towards its comments to its end. Anything I want here? Recent discoveries withdraw the king from the realms of fable and place him in the full light of historical truth. So they found out that the fable character was really a historical person. He was the great builder among all the kings of the old Chaldean empires. He built at Ur, in addition to the great pyramidical table dedicated to Sin, the moon god, the fortified walls of the city of Nippur, temple of the air goddess, right? When they were building all these different temples, monasteries, and shit. Babylon. Go down to here. This would be 356 or 355. I mean, the close analogy in the formation of these names indicate the large group of princes, evidently, however many generations later, belong to the same royal family. These all of the chief element have the name of the god Sin, the great god of the city of Ur, who worshipped to have been peculiar to the Kushite race. Right, so it started by the Kushites. For they carried the observance with them wherever they went, while Sin played only secondary. Right. They also had utensils. They were eating with utensils, man. Page 359. The utensils found in the tombs prove that the Chaldeans, from time of their earliest kings, knew the art of working metals, gold, bronze, lead, and even iron. They were doing all that back in the day, man. That knew under the sun. The knowledge they owed to the Kushite element of the population, who once again gave them this knowledge: Kushites, Ethiopians, black Africans. But metals, though known and easily worked, were nevertheless too scarce to be in general use. And implements of chipped and polished flint, knives, arrowheads, axes, and hammers were still employed. Right, so it was hard to come around these minerals at this time. All right, they hadn't perfected it like it is now. The most common metal was bronze, and all metal implements and utensils were made of it. Iron was still so rare as to be regarded as one of the precious metals. It was used not for tools, but for making bracelets and other rude ornaments. Imagine having an iron bracelet, you know. Walk around an iron bracelet now, niggas think you broke out of prison. Think you got some iron shackles on. People used to have iron bracelets, man. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, that shit was probably heavy too. You know, iron got some weight to it. Kushites had knowledge of metal elements: gold, bronze, lead, iron. Yeah. All right, now I'm gonna end this with this. Also, by the way, did you know that Abraham was a descendant of the Chaldeans in the Bible? All right, he was a descendant of the Chaldeans. We know the Chaldeans were started by who? Nimrod, who was Ethiopian. All right, just throwing it out there. Abraham was a Chaldean. The Bible states that Abraham was raised in Ur of the Chaldeans. All right, Abraham was born a Chaldean. All right, throwing it out there. Let's go back real quick. Let's go back to my man's Godfrey Higgins. What did Godfrey Higgins say? What does this man say? Chaldeans have been invented by this race, and that the Chaldees were originally Negroes, and Abraham was a descendant of the Chaldeans. Yeah. Anyway, let's continue. Let's prove that in the Bible, though. Let's prove that Abraham was a Chaldean. We start off at Genesis 11:31. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot his son, Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. They came into Haran and dwelt there. All right, so Terah was the father of Abram, whose name was changed to Abraham later on. You find about that in Genesis 15. But Nehemiah 9:7. Thou art the Lord, Yahawah, the God who didst choose Abram, and brought him forth out of Ur of the Chaldees, and gave him the name Abraham. Right? So he was a Chaldean. Alright? Once again, let's prove that Terah was the father of Abraham. Joshua chapter 24, verse 2. Joshua said unto the people, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, God of Israel, your fathers dwelt on the other side of the flood in old time. Even Terah, the father of Abraham and the father of Nachor, and they served other gods. Right? Yeah, they served other gods. They were worshiping them same Cushite gods. Right? Before they found the God of the real God, Yahawah, the Most High. Alright? Terah. He had 3 sons, Haran, Nahor, and Abraham. And they're descendants of the Chaldean shepherd. He was a Chaldean. Alright? And let's get Judith real quick. Judith is found in the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha was originally part of the King James Bible, 1611 edition. Alright? So, where are we at, man? This is the guy, basically, summarized. It's a guy, he wanted to report on the Hebrews, who were the Israelites. He wanted to know who they were. And then this guy's going to give him the report. He says, let's start at 5. Judith 5 and 5. Then said Achor, the captain of all the sons of Ammon, Let my Lord now hear a word from the mouth of thy servant, and I will declare unto thee the truth concerning this people, which dwelleth near thee and inhabiteth the hill countries, and there shall no lie come out of the mouth of thy servant. This people, he's talking about the Israelites, this people are descended of the Chaldeans. So he's saying the Israelites were descended of the Chaldeans. Right? Judah 5 and 6. These people are descended of the Chaldeans, and they sojourned herefore to Mesopotamia because they would not follow the gods of their fathers, which were in the land of Chaldea. Right? They didn't follow the God of the Hamites. They followed Yahawah, the Most High. All right? The true God. All right, I'm in this by saying, so what happened to the black people who founded Babylon? Because you always got that person. So what happened? If they were there, what happened? I don't know, man. What happened to the Australian Aboriginals that occupied Australia? What happened to the Aboriginals that occupied New Zealand? What happened to the Native Americans? Right? Massachusetts, Native American name. I never seen a native in Massachusetts in my life. I'll tell you what happened. They got taken out by some individuals. All right? Some very dastardly individuals. Edomites. So what happened to these black people who founded Babylon? Well, he actually tells you in this book, page 351. Somebody pulling up my house. Anyway, after a duration that we have no means of estimating, the first Kushite or Akkad dynasty of Babylon was overturned by a foreign invasion, rather more than 2,500 years ago before our era. Right? He talks about how the Aryans, Japhetic race, Iranian people, right? They took over Media and Persia, and they took over India. So that's what happened 2,500 years ago. And that was 2,500, so now it would be like, 2,700 years ago, because he wrote this in 1800s. So, yeah, man, yeah. That was a long-winded video. I had to get a lot of information out there. By the way, this artwork, fire, man. Look at that. Look at that. Fire. Anyway, that's the video on the Black Chaldeans, man. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying, man. All that talking I had to do, just share the video, man. Share the video, man. I did all that. It's damn 3:48 in the morning. Show your boy some love, man. Anyway, man, with that, I say peace to the 12. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, Most High, Yahawah, the name is only God's Son, yahawashi. Yahawah is the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world commonly calls God, and yahawashi is the Savior of the nation, reserved the world commonly calls Jesus Christ. I want to say shalom, which means peace. You people listen and learn, you brothers who just work true to sincerity, and to you others who have been doing this thing before me, man. Peace. Go. Shalom.